He sold his only car to pay for his daughter's surgery. "Please, Daddy, am I going to die?" 8-year-old Lily asked the question with tears in her eyes while lying in a hospital bed. Her father froze. The doctors had just told him that without emergency surgery, his daughter might not survive. The operation would cost $50,000, but Michael had only $327 in his bank account. And worse, the only thing he still owned was the old car parked outside. A car he needed to keep his job. A car that was their family's last hope. What happened next shocked everyone. Michael was a single father. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away from cancer, leaving him alone to raise Lily. Life had been difficult ever since. He worked long hours delivering packages. Every morning he woke up at 5 a.m., prepared breakfast, took Lily to school, and spent the rest of the day driving across the city. His old blue sedan wasn't just transportation, it was his livelihood. Without it, he couldn't work. Without work, he couldn't pay rent. Without rent, they would become homeless. But none of that mattered now. His daughter was fighting for her life. The doctors explained that Lily had a rare heart condition. They had discovered it only days earlier. At first, she complained about being tired. Then she fainted during gym class. After several tests, the devastating diagnosis arrived: emergency surgery, immediately. Michael listened silently. Then he asked one question. "How much time do I have?" The doctor looked down. "Maybe 1 week?" Michael felt the ground disappear beneath him. That night, he sat inside his car in the hospital parking lot. Rain hit the windshield. He stared at the steering wheel. Then he made a decision. The next morning, he listed the car for sale. Within hours, a buyer appeared. The man offered $12,000. Michael knew the car was worth more, but he didn't have time. He accepted. As he handed over the keys, his hands trembled. The buyer noticed. "Are you okay?" Michael forced a smile. "It's for my daughter." The buyer nodded and drove away. Michael watched his future disappear down the street. But the money wasn't enough. Not even close. He still needed nearly $38,000. The surgery date was approaching, and every minute mattered. For the next 3 days, Michael walked everywhere. He sold his television, his furniture, his tools, even his wedding ring. Every item carried memories. Every sale broke his heart. But he kept going. Still, he only collected another $4,000. He was running out of options. Then something unexpected happened. Lily overheard a conversation between doctors. That night, she called her father closer. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart?" "If I don't make it?" Michael immediately stopped her. "No," but she continued. "If I don't, promise you'll be happy again." Michael burst into tears. He had been strong for weeks, but hearing those words from his little girl shattered him. The next morning, Michael did something he had never done before. He asked for help. He created an online fundraiser. Then he shared Lily's story. At first, nothing happened. Hours passed. Only 2 donations arrived. One was $5. The other was $10. Michael felt hopeless. Then his phone rang. It was his former boss. Years earlier, Michael had saved the man's life during a warehouse accident. They hadn't spoken in a long time. The boss had seen Lily's story online. "I remember what you did for me," he said. "How much do you still need?" Michael explained. The boss was silent for a moment. Then he said something unbelievable. "I'll donate $10,000. Michael nearly dropped the phone. For the first time, hope returned. Donations slowly increased. Friends shared the story. Strangers shared it. People from different countries started helping. The total reached $20,000. Then $25,000. Then $31,000. But the deadline was only 2 days away. They were still short. That evening, Lily's condition suddenly worsened. Doctors rushed into her room. Machines began beeping loudly. Michael stood helplessly outside. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a doctor emerged. "We stabilized her." Michael exhaled. Then the doctor added, "But she can't wait much longer." That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He sat alone in the hospital chapel. The room was empty. He lowered his head and prayed. For the first time in years, he felt completely broken. He wasn't asking for money. He wasn't asking for success. He only wanted one thing: more time with his daughter. The next morning, something extraordinary happened. A local journalist published Lily's story. Within hours, thousands of people saw it. Messages flooded in. Donations arrived every minute. $20, $50, $100, $500. The number kept climbing. Michael stared at the screen in disbelief. Then a nurse entered his room. "You should see this." Outside the hospital stood dozens of people. Strangers. Some held signs. Some carried flowers. Some simply wanted to support the family. Michael couldn't believe it. People he had never met cared about his daughter. By sunset, the fundraiser reached $49,700. Only $300 remained. Michael refreshed the page repeatedly. Nothing changed. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. Still $300 short. Then a new donation appeared. $300. Exactly. No name, no message, anonymous. The goal had been reached. Michael covered his face and cried. The surgery could finally happen. The next morning, nurses wheeled Lily toward the operating room. She squeezed her father's hand. "Daddy?" "Yes?" "I love you." Michael smiled through tears. "I love you more than anything." Then the doors closed, and all he could do was wait. The operation lasted 8 hours. 8 endless hours. Michael paced hallways, prayed, cried, remembered every birthday, every bedtime story, every hug, every moment. Finally, the surgeon appeared. Michael's heart stopped. The doctor smiled. The surgery was successful. Michael collapsed into a chair. Relief flooded through him. His daughter was alive. Weeks later, Lily returned home. Her recovery was slow but steady. One afternoon, she asked a question. "Daddy, when are you getting another car?" Michael laughed. "I don't know." At that moment, a knock sounded at the door. Outside stood the man who had bought his car. Behind him was the same blue sedan. Michael stared in confusion. The man smiled. "I heard what happened." Then he handed Michael the keys. "I think this belongs to you." Michael was speechless. "But why?" The man smiled again. "Because sometimes kindness comes back." Years later, Lily fully recovered. She grew into a healthy young woman. And every time someone asked about the old blue car parked in their driveway, Michael smiled. Because that car reminded him of one simple truth. A father's love has no price. He had been willing to lose everything. His job, his savings, his future. Even the last possessions he owned. Just to save one little girl. And in the end, the world helped save her too.